Did you see the fucking the UFO disclosure last week from the Pentagon?
No, I didn't see. I heard about it all right now, but I didn't see what was it about.
You wouldn't be mad into you wouldn't be in on the old alien trick, no.
I'm not Cam Deep. I'm not 2017 Cam Deep. That's for sure. I don't think many people are.
So the Pentagon
I just
basically
saw Joe Rogan's post on it. I didn't see it though.
mental. So the Pentagon released. They basically disclosed. Just to get a bit of background, the Pentagon disclosed the fact that they have off-world craft and they don't know where it's coming from. Like, that's the Pentagon. The American government released a statement saying that, which is fucking mental. It's people who don't get into that world, or you know what I mean, think it's for years maybe believed it was hoaxing, and there is 95% of it is bollocks. 95% of it is bollocks.
99.9.
But there is a fucking percentile of shit that is happening that we don't know what the fuck is actually happening, you know? And the thing that brought this to light was literally about 40 to 50 years of the military. So I've gone deep in the past 2 days. Rogan did a podcast with a lad last week, George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. Jeremy Corbell is a movie maker, makes films about, the most believable, not the most believable, but the stories that have the most evidence behind them. And he brought this guy, George Knapp, who's an investigative journalist, and they brought this story of Bob Lazar to the forefront. Who Bob Lazar was this scientist who was basically a mad scientist in and of his own right. So as a kid, he used to build like jet rockets, and he put a rocket on a Honda Civic. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's, so he was this fucking really, really smart dude. He ends up getting a job at Los Alamos, which is basically this, it's not just UFOs that they deal with, but there's a section of Los Alamos called, S4, which basically that's responsible for dealing with utilities, technologies, things of that nature. So imagine Los Alamos is like this secret base. They deal with nukes, they deal with aircraft, they deal with fucking all sorts of shit that's a bit moody and off the table. So anyway, Bob Lazar, basically he was brought in to reverse engineer these craft 30 years ago and kind of get a suss of what the fuck's going on. He ended up coming out about it in 89. Now, back in 1989, it was seen as mental. You know what I mean? It was fucking mental. It was like, what the fuck?
And he was discarded and discredited the whole lot, wasn't he, at the time?
Totally. Now, since they've kind of, the debunkers, their thing they had against Bob Lazar was he basically came out and said, and he's kind of checked out in terms of, he's definitely not lying about what he's saying, but they were trying, the discreditment was like, okay, well, we can't find any record of him being a student in fucking MIT. We don't have any records of him working in Los Alamos, so I think he's lying about that. The general consensus is that information was removed. Anyway, 31 years later, the US got all the shit that he was kind of saying. He wasn't saying that there's aliens. He wasn't saying that they're like, he's very, very black and white, and he's like, it's decompartmentalized. I wasn't exposed to things of that nature. I was basically exposed to the technology, the tech, the craft, and the craft that he was working on. They have a propulsion system that human beings don't have. It's a technology that we're yet to uncover. We don't really understand it. So if you think about the classic flying saucer thing, and it just moves and it dots fucking left and right and up and down. But what he did, he got himself hypnotized to be able to remember what details he had actually worked on. And he'd written out the schematic of the craft and how the thing actually worked, because it's not the propulsion systems that human beings have. You have a jet fueled engine, right? There has to be a kickback. There has to be like a flame that blows out the back to get the thing to move forward. Whereas this technology is, it's an antimatter reactor. So that means that it's basically able to create and warp gravitational fields. And then it's not only able to warp the gravitational field, but it's able to move, it's able to change space and time in front of it. So it's able to change direction instantaneously with no kickback at all. And it's able to operate at speeds that are totally out of this fucking world. You know, like, for example, drop from 60,000 feet to the surface of the ocean in like less than a second, probably instantaneously. So all this shit is totally off the charts. It's totally mental to think about. It's mind-boggling. And for so many years, UFOs and things of that nature have been seen as ridiculous. You know what I mean? And for a lot of people, it's a mind-blowing thought. And it's a scary thought. It's a very, very scary thought to think that we might be, you know what I mean, not only not alone, but we're being visited by things that are fucking far beyond our technological capabilities. So the Pentagon comes out last week and says, yeah, we've got craft and technology that isn't of this world, and we don't really know where it's coming from, which really means that they do know more than that, but that's what they're willing to release. That's what Joe Rogan put out last week. So I've been going, for years, like when I was younger, I got so deep into it, like really fucking deep into it. And, you know, probably swimming in fucking hoaxes and bullshit and wanting to believe a lot of it. But I know for a fact a lot of it was bollocks. But there is little tidbits that are like, okay, well, what cases are there that they're undeniable? So obviously the Pentagon have kind of released a statement to kind of go, there's shit going on here. There's something happening here that we're, you know what I mean? And it's now official. The mad thing that we should be aware of, the reason that they've been forced to come out with this is because, and we'll get to Sheffield stuff in a second, but the reason that they've been forced to come out with this is because it's no longer just like fucking Billy Joel fucking Cleaterson out in, you know what I mean, Moose fuck Maine, who's been visited by, you know what I mean, the aliens took me up in their ship, and it's like that.
My asshole.
Yeah, exactly. I got pulled up into the beam of light, and so that's like when you're hearing people like that, it always seems to be an old Cletus who gets picked up. It's unbelievable. It's non-believable. You're kind of like, you might be telling us, but you're probably talking bollocks. The thing that's brought it to the front is because it's becoming a national security threat. So there was a thing I was watching last night, which was fucking pretty mind-blowing, of all these documented cases of unidentified craft appearing over, so Los Alamos, where the nukes are being held. And this was the peak of these things was happening at nuclear bases in America, Russia, and China. So these are all separate things that are happening to these countries. You don't hear a lot about what's happening in Russia and China, but it is happening. And the documented cases, and this didn't happen just once, this happened multiple times, of craft would appear. The controls that initiate the nuclear launch codes were tampered with. So let's say there was an example in Russia where the nuclear launch countdown was initiated. It was a 15-second countdown where the fucking nuke is being opened up out of the ground and about to be launched. 15-second countdown, all the alarms are going off. They're going, what the fuck is going on? Report of a craft outside. After 15 seconds, the thing shuts down, the craft fucks off, which is mental. There was another case in America, in Los Alamos, where voluntarily the military had activated the nuke to go out, and the same thing happened. The nuke was deactivated by some off-world craft. So this has happened, like, I think they said since this happened, these documented cases started happening in the 60s, 92,000 documented incidents have happened since. Now, obviously, a majority of those cases are going to be bollocks, but there's thousands of those cases that are military personnel with no reason to lie, which is kind of scary, to be honest. It's really, really fucking scary. So anyway, it's gotten to a point now where you can't really keep denying the fact that there isn't something going on. You can't just say, oh, that's absolute bullshit. It's not to say, the key thing with these things is trying to remain objective and try and focus on the things that are actually, there's evidence to prove what's happening. And there's only a couple of cases where that's actually the story. Do you know what I mean? So it's really important to be objective and try and see things for what they are. You know, it's craft, it's technology, and a propulsion system that is totally fucking beyond our capabilities technologically. And it's happening, but maybe it's not happening in the way that we think it is. So anyway, that's I've been back down the fucking rabbit hole well and truly for at least 2 weeks now, which is good crack. So folks,
did you read the actual Pentagon thing, or did you read what people said about the Pentagons?
I read the article, scanned through the article. I'll bring it up here, and we'll see. Is it a load of bollocks?
Like from? from the Pentagon? Did you read their statement, or did you read somebody talking about it?
Front page of the New York Times. So here we go. Hold on, mate. Hold on. You're devil's advocate on this, PD. I sense it. You're not in.
Oh, somebody has to be, you know.
Love it. He's
like
not
I didn't
on.
look into it myself, so I'm not going to say too much. I'm not a cynic whatsoever. I just think that there is definitely life.
Yeah.
Outside of our planet. I just don't think that there is life as advanced as us.
Fair. Okay. I get you.
I think there's nothing further than microbes because of how young the universe is and how young our galaxy is and our sun and our planet, that I think that we're the first advanced civilization.
But do you not think that it's a mathematical fact that there's 10 billion planets out there that could be capable of producing life like ours? So I get what you're saying, that's definitely a case as well. And it's not that we can't prove anything really, can we? You know, but I definitely think the question the thing that needs to be dispelled from people is that, well, we're the only thing out there. You know what I mean? And I think that is a really short-sighted way of seeing, because that's just not the reality. 50 years ago it might have been, but the way we see the universe now, it's just not the truth. You know, there is definitely potential
I think we're the only us.
Yeah, totally. Hold on. So I'm actually here's the release. So the Pentagon released UFO videos. So there was 3 videos released by the Pentagon, basically. This was 2 months ago. And then there was another release after that. But 2 months ago, they released these videos of unexplained flying objects. There's 3 videos that they're literally officially saying that these are real. These videos are real, but we don't know what they are, is what they're saying. You know what I mean? So these are this craft that are moving in this way, as I described, where it's changing the gravitational field around it, and it's moving erratically, and it's beyond the capability of any airplane or technology that we have. They release these videos and they're like, we don't know what the fuck they are, basically. Then from there, yeah, okay, cool. The Department of Defense confirmed what seekers of extraterrestrial life have long hoped to be true. They're real. At least 3 videos are. What the videos show, the government isn't so sure. On Monday, the Pentagon released 3 Navy videos that have been driving speculation about unidentified flying objects for years, saying it meant to clear up any misconceptions about whether the unclassified footage was real or complete. Apparently, not apparently, it's real, the Pentagon said, including links so the curious could download the footage for themselves. The videos were captured by naval aviators showing objects hurtling through the sky, one rotating against the wind, and pilots can be heard expressing confusion and awe. When they first appeared online, they breathed new life into the decade-long conversation about interstellar visitors ever coming to Earth. The Pentagon's release cheered enthusiasts in the search of extraterrestrial life. It goes on, so on and so forth. Well, the long and short of it is the Pentagon released the footage. The official statement is the footage is real. We don't know what the fuck it is. You know, so that in and of itself it's not, you can't jump to massive conclusions. All I'm saying is someone who's been into aliens for a long time, it's fucking good times. It's exciting shit.
We're back, boys.
but here's the funny thing about it, right? And this is where the headspace changes. We watched there was another mad abduction, the most famous abduction case story of a guy called Travis Walton. And we watched the documentary on it last night. And basically the idea was his friends stumbled upon, they were driving in a truck in the country, they stumbled upon a massive beam of light. They came upon a fucking craft of some kind that was hovering at low altitude. And one of the guys, this guy Travis, had gotten out and he pursued it on foot. So he demanded, the guys were like, what the fuck is going on? This guy Travis gets out of the truck, starts running towards it. The friends then reported that they saw a beam of light hit him, and he was kind of lifted up off the ground momentarily. His story then goes on that he was basically taken up. The last thing he remembers is running towards the craft. What's believed by the end of the story is that he basically was almost killed by the blast of light. He reckons that the aliens took him up, and he describes this story of waking up on a fucking bed with a light and then seeing 3 aliens, and he freaks the fuck out, running all over the place, describes the parts of the ship in fucking little dribs and drabs. And then some humanoids are on the ship as well, and they put a mask on him, and then he wakes up on the side of the road 5 days later. So the story is pretty fucking mental. The thing that scares me about the story is that every single witness to the story checks out on all the key questions. So they almost prove beyond a doubt that there's a possibility that they're all lying, that they're all in on it. They kind of prove that that isn't happening. Anyway, the point of the story is not to say, oh, they got abducted. Point of the story was kind of saying that he reckons his opinion, this guy, Travis Walton, his opinion was like, I don't think the world will be ready for news like that. You know, I think what's happening right now is that we're slowly being drip fed and conditioned slowly. And that's probably a good way of looking at it. And he, like, let's say this shit, let's say this.
If something happens,
yeah.
If something happens, then there won't be widespread panic and fucking
because I honestly,
granny and shit in the corner.
Yeah, because I honestly think, like, if you think about how that's one of the biggest, if that gets proved, which they've already said that there's shit happening, we don't know what it is, which opens up the conversation. If let's just say that they were to reveal all, and let's just say that they had craft from multiple different alien species that were visiting this planet for fucking aeons, as has been part of, you know, look at any art going back into ancient civilization. Let's say they start saying, well, actually, do you know what? All that shit is aliens. We are being visited by technologically advanced races. And here's the crack. I guarantee you people would freak the fuck out if that came out. I'm someone who's mad into it myself. I'm passionate about it and fucking all of that shit. Even I would be like, whoa, Jesus, what the fuck? Because your entire...
Yeah, but you're still going to get up and go to work the next day. That's what I think.
But do you think, I think people would be like, fucking like, think about, you're an open-minded dude, right? You're a smart guy. You try and remain objective. How many absolute fucking millhouses are there out there that are like, what? What you mean?
Yeah.
And then they're just like fucking losing the fucking rag. Independence Day. I'd be those people in Independence Day where they're like waiting under the mothership with the fucking signs. Come on in. And just the massive beam, laser beam, just first crew.
Sign saying, "Proudly."
Decimated the first laser that comes in.
Oh, God.
Oh, it's so fucking funny. But I honestly believe that if something like this is true, it's so fucking mental that I don't believe a lot of people can handle it. So if I was the government, I would probably do what they're doing now, which would be like slowly but surely, few bits here and there. Maybe in fucking 20 years, we're looking at like, oh, fuck, right, we know what's happening here. If you were to do it straight off the bat, there'd just be mass hysteria. I think that lad if that lad Walton was telling the truth, I was kind of thinking to myself, what would I do? If I woke up on a bed on a spaceship and I saw lights and I looked over, I saw like 3 fucking grey aliens with massive eyes, tiny bodies. I'd like, you try and play it cool, but you wouldn't really, would you? You'd be fucking like, what the fuck's going on? And then you'd be giving the old windmill. If I hit you, it's your fault. Get me off this spaceship. Fuck me. Exciting times.
So, you know, take America, the box of frogs that it is, out of the equation, okay? Yeah. So say if, right, you know, in the middle of the day, somewhere like on fucking Grafton Street, a UFO crash lands, crashes into the side of Brown Thomas, and then goes, and then just takes back off again. And everybody caught it on their phone. It's all being live fed. It's all over everybody's Instagram story. It's all over Snapchat. It's all over news, all over the world, right? I swear to God, I think it's changed in the last 50 years that it would be like, oh my God, that is mad. Shit, I have to be back in work now. My break is over in 15 minutes. I'm going back to work. Like, you know, if I'm going to go up the next day and the boss is ringing me going, why aren't you in work? Did you not hear there was the fucking aliens crashed on Grafton Street yesterday? They were like, yeah, no, seen that as well. Where the fuck are you? Aliens, man, what the fuck? You know,
yeah.
This is it. This is the end of it. No, it's not. They're gone. You're supposed to work 20 minutes ago. Get your fucking ass in here.
So what are the things in history have happened that have been mind-boggling that we kind of just accept now? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think, in our lifetime, has there been anything that's happened that's been truly fucking mental that we've been kind of like, ooh, I don't think anything's comparable to like extraterrestrial life, but you know, maybe there's things that have been...
What cataclysms have there been? So you had, say, for example, the Spanish flu, World War One, World War Two.
Yeah. They would be
as far as large scale mad shit. Yeah. Apart from that, and now, say COVID-19, which is historical in its own way.
Yeah. And I think things,
it's really like
these massive events, totally. And even in terms of discovery, like maybe things that make us question what we've been told as a human race. I think there's some like, if anyone fucking listens to Joe Rogan, he had this guy, Graham Hancock, on a couple of times. Graham Hancock is basically this Egyptologist who is, he reckons that humanity is, and like the advanced cultures are much older than what we're being told. Like we're kind of made to think that the ancient Sumerians, who kind of slightly preceded the Egyptians, are the oldest kind of advanced race. And now what they're kind of finding is in the Amazon that they're finding they found fucking evidence of a civilization that had 70 million people in it. I might be wrong, and I might be wrong in the number there. It might be 20 million or 70 million. Some mental amount of people. You got to think about what were the timeline. There's a civilization that was in the tens of millions that was potentially 12 to 15,000 years ago. And they found this gene signaling. So a gene signal would be like, if you can identify the most lowest form of a gene and you can trace it back to what it was. They found a gene signal that's from Australasia. So that means that people 12 to 15,000 years ago were making their way from the Australian continent, which I live on now, to South America, to the rainforest. So that means not only do they have a massive civilization, but we were traveling across the oceans. And the thought process is that there was a cataclysm, some kind of like fucking world-ending event that happened, whether it be a comet or something fucking hit the earth and changed everything, you know? And that's where myths about Atlantis come in. It's like a city that got buried under the ocean. There is actually evidence to show that something hit Greenland, like something hit the northern Atlantic fucking somewhere in that timeline and fucked up a lot of shit. And this is something that's been proven by guys like Randall Carlson, who's dead now. But people who are able to look at, oh fuck, there's definitely evidence that the earth was hit by something pretty severe. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because that's another example. If we were to understand that civilization we've actually had very advanced civilizations, not like us, not like fucking New York City walking around with a fucking iPhone, but we've had advanced civilizations of millions and millions of people. I think that's potentially another one of those things where people could easily start going, oh yeah, I suppose that's the crack. But it's actually a totally different version of our history. We think the ancient Egyptians are the first people to have fucking done that. You know, your man Graham Hancock reckons that the pyramids preceded the Egyptians and that there's rain erosion on the pyramids, which are now in a desert. You know, so there's fucking mad shit like that. There's so much, I think reality is stranger than fiction in a lot of ways. And I think we get so caught up in stories that are made up, but there's actually fucking, our own history is mental and there's more shit being uncovered. And I think, as you were saying there, going back to that example about the UFO on Grafton Street, it's like, I think people are slowly but surely being conditioned to more sensational shit coming out. Like it's less freaky than maybe it was 50 years ago when it's like black and white TV. I'm going home to my family. You know, we live in a very, very different world these days. So anyway, folks, that's an interesting digression there. Basically a whole episode on aliens.
I'm not an absolute fucking conspiracy denier. I am a bit of an anti-conspiracy theorist, okay? And I do feel that a lot of times when it comes to conspiracies, they can find one little piece of evidence that could be seen in one way if you look at it that way, and then run to the fucking hills with it, okay? And I listened to that Egyptologist when he was on Joe Rogan, and I thought he was absolutely full to the brim of waffle.
Okay.
Of somebody that had one little shred of something that could be perceived in one way, and then went absolutely banana flavored with it.
I get you.
Yeah, I find that would happen, that happens an awful lot when it comes to conspiracies. That, well, listen, this is the base of it. It is possible because we did find this rain erosion on the side of the pyramids. That blah 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 blah. But every single other study, every single other piece of evidence, is I believe in science. I believe in what is absolutely in front of me. I don't believe in anything until it is absolutely proven to me in a way that I can understand it.
I can respect that. And that's the way. Totally, yeah.
When I was listening to him, that's what I always thought. And when I was listening to other people talking about aliens and spaceships, that's what I always thought as well. I was like, listen, maybe, I don't know, but I don't think so, because I don't believe it. And there isn't science there that's actually there isn't actual full-on science that not only proves it, but absolutely disproves.
Yeah. Yeah, you need
all
full
the
evidence.
Evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, skepticism and trying to remain objective is very, very important. But I also think you've got to see both sides of things. Like, the number one thing I would say about modern
I'm
Egypt...
open to both sides is what I mean, but I'm not
totally
convinced by one little piece.
And you should be. Do you know what I mean? And you should be, because there's far too many. And that's why I always try, and even though, because I want the alien thing to be absolutely real, so I'm fucking super passionate about it, it's also about remaining objective and not fucking overstating the case. Okay, well, if there's craft, then there's fucking this, then there's that. It's like, no, like, what do you have? What does that fucking mean? The thing that we've got to understand about humans is that human beings are dogmatic, and we stick to things and we don't like change. So, for example, when, let's say, psychology would be a great example of this. What the fuck's his name? Not Ernst Jung.
Sigmund Freud.
Sigmund Freud. There we go. So Sigmund Freud was a guy who kind of came up with, was a trailblazer within psychology and coming up with concepts that were totally fucking, like, at the time were seen as like, you're a charlatan, you're a fucking fool, you're making this shit up. But actually, the discoveries that he made about the mind became, things that are commonplace now. And what he faced resistance about was all his colleagues who were so dogmatic about what they knew, they wouldn't accept new information. And I think and that was the same thing with Egyptologists. You could dead be right about Graham Hancock. He could be a fucking waffler. Absolutely could be a waffler. But there's also equal evidence to show that the Egyptologists today are also not willing to accept new information that might change their view. And I think that's the case with everything. So you're dead right. We should be absolutely skeptical of new evidence that comes out that says it's proving things, but we also need to be radically open-minded to evidence and treat it objectively. I think to say that something's bollocks just because it's out there in terms of its concept, well, fuck me, like, we thought the earth was flat 500 years ago. There's still fucking morons. And that's another problem with conspiracies, is that there's so many fucking morons who don't, like Eddie Bravo on Joe Rogan's mate. I can't listen to the cunt anymore.
It can be louder. The flat earthers can be louder, and that's, because of the absolute absurdity about it. It just got traction.
You used to have I used to teach personal trainer courses a couple of years ago, right? And you get there's no criteria for coming in to do a course. So because all the time you get a lunatic every once in a while that will come in, funnily enough. And this guy was fucking out there, and he was so certain of flat earth. He was so certain the earth was flat. And I remember my boss was an engineer. He was an engineer. It's a real mathematical fucking, like, really thinks things through. It's black and white. No, this is the fucking law of that. This is the law of this. That's how that actually works. This is why you're wrong. And I watched the two lads on a whiteboard go back and forth about it. And your man was like, well, if you stand here and you look at the fucking sun and then you walk a mile, the sun's still in the same place. So what the fuck's that? Like, the earth's flat. and then he was like, on the outer edges of the earth, because the earth is flat, there's giant ice walls that are defended by some kind of fucking, it was like he was describing the
fucking, on the back of a turtle.
he was describing the fucking lads from Game of Thrones who live on the ice wall, as if that's real. And I was like, what the fuck are you? And he was dead serious.
Game of Thrones was new evidence.
Dead serious, man. He was all over it. So, like, fuck me, how many lads like that are out there that are they ruin it. They ruin it because they're too fucking retarded to look at evidence, to try and treat things objectively. They want to believe something so bad that it's like, that's definitely happening. As much as I want aliens to be real, like, I'm only going to say I know something to be true when there's a lot of evidence to prove the fact that it's true. You know, and the fact that the Pentagon are coming out and
saying, I see it and it crashes into Grattan Street and smashes through Brown Thomas, then I'm not going to stay in defence, I'm going to stay objective. That's all.
There you go.
The way you're passionate with that, do you know what I'm passionate with in that kind of same vein is
Leeds, Premiership, Leeds, come on. Sorry.
The actual people, historical people. I have this thing where it was like the way I was when I was in school. If I was interested in it, I was absolutely brilliant. If I wasn't, then I quite simply wasn't. You touched on, what was that therapist? I was like, Freud. I can tell you everything about Sigmund Freud. Okay, from where he was born, when he was born, to where he was when he died, how his family died, how when he was working with Jung, how he came up. We started off in hypnotherapy. The reason why he was a trailblazer was because the woman he wanted to marry was in a rich family, and he was a struggling doctor.
Coked out his door.
A ne'er-do-well, right? A ne'er-do-well. His family wouldn't let his daughter marry a ne'er-do-well doctor, struggling doctor. So in order for him to make a name for himself, he had to come up with something a bit mad. So he went into hypnotherapy, and then he found out about this guy, that Professor Jung, that was helping people get better by talking. And that's where psychoanalysts came up. That's the actual birth of therapy. But it's not just him. It's people like Tesla, Alexander Graham Bell, Henry Ford, Mark Twain, Malcolm X, like American presidents, Irish poets, Irish authors, stuff like that. I get into one of them and I'm going, right, for the next 2-3 days, I'm going to be the absolute man when it comes to this person. That's it. And then when I know all about Hitler's love life. Yeah. Where he groomed his niece and all this, you know, she shot herself in the stomach, and then later on, Eva Braun, when she got super jealous, she shot herself in the stomach as well. Mental. Like he was in a relationship with his niece, his sister's daughter.
It's insane.
And he wouldn't let her. They slept in the same bedroom since she was like 8 years old. Nobody knows this about Hitler. And then when he wanted to move to France to study, he said, no, you're not allowed to go anywhere. And she said, well, fuck you, I'm going because actually I have a boyfriend and I love him. And he goes, well, now you're not going anywhere. So she locked him in their bedroom and she shot herself in the stomach with his gun. And it was put down as suicide.
Man.
So mad stuff like that. That's where I go.
It's insanely interesting. Totally. 100%. I always love fucking stuff that not only challenges the status quo, but just going deep onto things. There's so many things about life and history and whatever the fuck is going on that is so interesting. And I suppose everyone is going to have their different thing. That's fucking fascinating. I didn't know that about Hitler at all. But
people like Charlie Chaplin, Walt Disney, these people I've gone in on, spent 2-3 days on them, on to the next person.
Fucking saying church. Folks, I don't even, like, what time are we at here? We've been going for close to, I'd say we've been going for close to an hour. I'd say that's a fucking podcast in and of itself, if you ask me.
That's a cracker, if you ask me.
That was episode 68. The fucking aliens are here, pal. Yeah.
Deadly.
I honestly don't see the point in going on to into a topic. Let's save it for episode 69. And we'll go for that. Yeah, this is probably the weirdest episode we've ever done. It might be a bit freaky to regular viewers or listeners, but listen, folks, sometimes you just got to shoot the shit on some mental stuff.
Fucking enjoyed that now. Yeah, it's the hat, I tell you.
The fucking hat, man. You're like fucking serious. I wonder when he started getting into wearing hats.
I think it's just an old person thing. You know, and he's always like a young old person, and now he's kind of like he's an old person. We're talking about my dad, by the way, who was literally the coolest motherfucker on the planet.
Out on the
Always has
street.
been.
Out on the street doing the Macarena for an old
Doing
lockdown
the
party.
Macarena and the one step, two times, all this type of stuff.
Oh,
He's a
man.
Fruit Loop.
Fucking brilliant. Fucking brilliant.
He's a Fruit Loop.
And Leeds in the Premiership as well.
Yeah.
So you were fucking licking windows after that, pal, were you? Chuffed.
You know what? I was. I didn't actually celebrate it properly because I had that massive cycle on with Limo the next day, and then the following day after that, it was a school night. So I didn't celebrate, but I'm gonna go and have a pool night.
Yeah,
with
fair.
my dad some Friday night next week or the week after, and go for it. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna properly celebrate it, get plastered, and sing a few songs.
Lethal. I remember years ago, my brother Aaron was a Leeds fan for fucking years. I'm sure he still is, but he doesn't watch football anymore. And I remember when he was like, "Oh yeah, no, fucking Leeds went bankrupt." What was that, back in 2002 or 2003 or something like that?
Yeah.
Lost the plot.
We had an owner who, it was just mad. He was spending 15 grand a week on tropical fish to feed to a shark that was in the wall behind his desk.
Ah, would you fucking stop? What?
Do you know what I mean? There was this other story. This footballer. He never did well. I can't remember his name right now, but he was on the train on his way to Ellen Road to negotiate a contract when he was signing over, and his agent was saying, "Listen, you're worth $6 grand a week, and we're not going to take anything less than that. If he says 5, we're just going to stand up and we're going to walk away, but we're going to highball it. We're going to go in looking for 8 with no bonuses, and then we're going to go down to 6 with bonuses, and we're not leaving without that." And that was the whole train journey. And then they walked into the thing, and they're in the middle of negotiations. Rizdale was his name, the owner's name. He came in and he goes, "Right, listen, I don't have time for this. You don't have time for this. I'm not making any special offers. It's 15 grand a week. Take it or leave it. That's my offer." And he's like, "Oh, right, yeah, grand." Signed, bang. There was loads of deals like that. Even Mark Viduka, who was an
Mark
prolific
is he
goal
the
scorer.
beast?
Brilliant footballer. Yeah, he's a beast. But
I haven't heard that name. I haven't heard that name since fucking like LMA Manager 2000. Like,
oh yeah. He was given a contract that guaranteed him the captain's armband and 90 minutes football.
That's fucking gas.
So he just got fat.
Just who gives a bollock? Yeah, because there's no pressure.
No pressure. He stopped scoring goals. Alan Smith was scoring all the goals for him, so he was like, "Right, fuck that, I'm just going to get fat."
Jesus.
The company was just ran into the ground. Then your man Ken Bates, Norman Bates, the more the serial killer. Ken Bates bought the club off him. Bought the club for £1, or £1 plus the debt.
The debt was absolutely astronomical, obviously, was it?
Yeah, it was mental. And then he ended up selling the stadium and everything. Like we didn't own the stadium for 12 years.
Jesus. So it's been a fucking long road back to the top, but you're here.
We're here now.
Unreal stuff.
Let's go.
Fucking bit of crack. Folks, that is our episode for today. Like the video if you're watching it on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel on whatever thing you're listening to. We're soon going to be releasing on Spotify. We're going to be distributing on different channels, but for the moment it's Podbean and iTunes. If you're listening to the audio, make sure you've left us a good review if you can, please. Subscribe to the episodes as they come out. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you hit your notifications button, the little bell below, like the video as I said, and subscribe to the channel. And please share this on social media if you're into fucking aliens, Mark Viduka, Egypt, or
Princess Anastasia of Russia. Yeah. That's one of my favorite stories. No, it's not tonight.
Next time. We're changing. It's no longer the Chef Fit podcast. It's the it's the Fedora podcast. Anytime Peter wears a fucking fedora and a Leeds jersey in combination, there's some shit about to be thrown at the wall, and we'll see what happens.
There's always a Leeds jersey on. We episode 69 next week. We get to episode 71, which is 69 with 2 fingers up the ass.
There we go, pal. 2 in the old pink, 1 in the stink. All right, folks. See you in church. That's our video for today. It's our podcast. Catch us all soon. Be good. Stay safe.
Look.
Peace.